Hi there, my name is Phil with the Stories Project, and today I have the distinct pleasure of having a nice conversation with Mr. Bill Sargent. Welcome, Bill.
Hi, how are you today?
So far, so good. So, today we're going to kind of walk through Bill's life story here and see where the conversation takes us. So, where I like to start is from the beginning, like, where were you born?
In a hospital.
Okay, that's usually pretty good. Any particular city or state?
Uh, yeah, Waukesha.
Waukesha.
Yeah.
Okay. Grade school. Where did you go to grade school?
Also Waukesha.
Oh, so
White
you're a local
Rock.
boy.
Yeah.
No stories from afar.
No.
What school did you go to in Waukesha?
White Rock.
White Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, very cool. Any kind of distinct stories that you can think of when you were in grade school? Like.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Oh, sure. I got stories go way back.
Okay, yeah, fire away.
Uh,
Something that you want to
Yeah, I
mention?
was born at a very early age.
Mhm.
um, in White Rock, I had my first experience being suspended from school.
Really?
Yes.
In elementary school?
I started right away, like in first or second grade,
Yeah.
and that set a pattern. Okay, that I would follow. I got my first media attention when I was in that area of life. I made national syndication news. Yes, in the newspapers. And the story was Little Billy Goes into Orbit.
Okay.
And it had a picture of me in the clothes dryer with my head sticking out the clothes dryer and my little brother with his hand on the door of the clothes dryer. Because my mother had a phone call when she was doing laundry, and so she went upstairs and left the two of us downstairs with the clothes dryer. And the object was, you get in, I will turn the drum on the clothes dryer. And I was really nice to my brother. I did what we were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I got in and he closed the door. Yeah, which turned on the clothes dryer, and all my mom was.
Oh boy.
Uh,
So how did you make the news? I mean,
well, one of my neighbors got wind of what happened, and she called the Waukesha Freeman,
mhm.
and they came out and they did the story, and syndication picked it up.
Gotcha.
My second appearance was on the front page of the Green Sheet. And the Green Sheet goes way back, but it was an entertainment section of the paper. And on the front of it, they had come around to take pictures of us kids during the lunch hour. And I had my little barn lunchbox, like a barn, and I had a way thing about eating my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in such a way that I made sure I did not consume any crust.
Gotcha.
And so they got a picture of me with my sandwich, and that made the front page of the green section. And so I'm already off a media, a
Path
media
right away.
figure
Gotcha.
before anything else happened. I tell people that my entire life I've operated under a severe handicap. And I have a very severe allergy, and I'm allergic to jobs and bosses.
Yep.
And
I've heard this many a times.
yes, and so because of that, I started my first business around about that time. I started when I was 4 years old, and to be frank, I'm not even sure exactly what age I was, but it was in that time period. And I started my first business at that point. And people will ask me, well, what kind of a business would you start it for? My great grandmother had given me a box of seashells, and I liked money because I was into building model cars and ships and planes and stuff like that, and those cost money. So I would not usually not spend my milk money on milk. I'd pocket it and build up an account to buy a new model, and in any case, I would take the box of seashells, and I would do this. Door open. This is 1 penny. This is 2.
So you're trying to sell the shells?
I didn't try.
Oh.
I sold.
My fault.
I sold. However, the business wasn't really well thought out. I didn't think really long term, because when the box was empty, I was out of business. So there was a guy across the street from us who was into print advertising. And he had all of these old calendars, out-of-date calendars that he'd not moved to clients and stuff like that. And he gave them to me. And I would cut off the pictures. They were beautiful pictures. And so I had a stack of pictures. This is 1 penny, this is 2. And so that started my entrepreneurial career.
Gotcha.
And that eventually evolved later on in life to shoveling walks, mowing lawns, paperboy, whatever I could do to make some money.
So what about like sports in school? Did you do any kind of sports?
Oh God, no.
No? Okay.
I avoided that like the plague.
Okay.
I was no good at any of that.
Enough said.
And one other thing I thought of, another way that I made money back then, is on the way to school, there was a gas station. And every once in a while, I would skip school, and I'd stop at the gas station, and I would wash people's windshields. It was back in the days of full service and stuff like that. And so I'd wash their windshields, and they'd give me a nickel or something like that, so I could go across the street from the gas station and buy models. So my first stage appearance happened early on there, somewhere around first grade, whatever it was. It was very embarrassing, incredibly embarrassing. It was, I think, a Christmas production of some sort, and it was my job to introduce the show. So they introduced me, and all you heard was audience laughter, because all you saw was the curtain going.
Couldn't find your way out to the stage.
I could not find the opening in the curtain. It was highly embarrassing, but that was my first appearance there. My musical career started while I was there.
In elementary?
In elementary school. I started taking piano lessons when I was 8 years old, and from a Hungarian lady on Dunbar Street, right by the library in Waukesha, and they came around and asked for volunteers for the school orchestra, and I said, what do you play, Billy? I play piano. We don't have a piano in the school orchestra. Right then and there, I had to make a decision. If I was going to be in a band, I had to play an instrument that bands used.
Yeah.
Well, there was a kid in my neighborhood who had caught my eye, who played the drums, and I thought it was cool. His drum set was cool. Playing drums was cool. Everything about it. So at that point in time, that's when I made the decision to switch over and
so
play
you started
drums.
with drums.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that happened about 10 years old.
So let's go away from the elementary and let's get into high school. High school, I'm assuming you continued band?
Well, I had left We moved from
Waukesha.
Waukesha to Lake Mills,
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
and I started Lake Mills in 5th grade.
Okay.
And when it got around to beginners band in 6th grade, yeah, and then I was in on the drums and
Yeah.
and that kind of thing, and I was at it serious.
So now, did you go to high school out in Lake Mills?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So
For as long as I
what
went
moved the
to high
family out to
school.
Lake Mills?
I don't know why we moved. Now my great grandmother had a duplex out there,
Okay.
and I don't know whether it was whatever it was. My parents bought it from
Oh, okay.
from the estate,
Gotcha.
and we moved there. And my dad began commuting because my dad worked at Waukesha Motors
Okay.
for like 35 in
Wow.
Waukesha, and so he commuted every day to Waukesha to work. My mother, when we were in Waukesha, she worked as a switchboard operator
Oh, really?
at Waukesha Memorial Hospital.
Oh, wow.
You know, back when they plugged in the phone and, okay, you need what extension and that kind of thing. When we moved to Lake Mills, she did some sort of clerical work for a company out there. And that's the way life was there. Lake Mills was like a Mayberry.
I was going to say a lot smaller, a lot slower than Waukesha.
If I had to pick the most idealistic small town in America at that point in time in that era, it would have been Lake Mills. It had the city square triangle.
Right.
And it had the city square with a band shell on it, and there was the Friday night band concerts with the popcorn wagon and everything else like that. And we had a lake during the summer. We swam every day. During the wintertime, we lived like 4 houses away from the mill pond, and I would ice skate every day. Then we'd ride bikes like crazy and just everything. It was the perfect little small town. And I was the troublemaker in the perfect little small town. I made it not so perfect.
Yeah. I can't say that I'm not surprised there. All right, well then let's get in. So I'm assuming that's when you started going to high school and got a little older, and that's when you got in a little bit more mischief.
It actually the mischief carried all the way through from elementary school on through. But in the first place, I wasn't really good academically. Mm-hmm. My brain wasn't there. I didn't care, and I was into music. Oh yeah.
Say you're more of a
definitely into the music.
Arts.
I had a reputation. Musically because I lived on Main Street. Okay, and we didn't have air conditioning, and I would practice up to 6 hours every day on the drum set, and so you had to have the windows open, and everybody in town knew the drummer was there. Okay, so that's kind of the way that went down, and I gained a reputation as being Bill the drummer. So the academics didn't really go well, and they thought that it was important that I didn't get enough out of 7th grade that I should go try it again.
Oh.
I repeated the 7th grade, and then I started going to music clinics in Madison, and I did a music camp. University of Wisconsin Music Clinic. It's at that age, I think it was a 1-week clinic, and later on, it turned into a 2-week clinic. And we would stay in the dorm in Madison and go through this clinic where they brought in all these great directors from all over the country and formed bands and stuff like that. and I got honors awards. I got our orchestra's honor student award, and another award where they only gave 3 of them in like out of the 1,500, 2,000 kids that were there, and so on and so forth. So I did really well with that. And later on, and we moved into high school, I continued that, and I would get failed in all my classes. I got D's and F's, with the exception of the music classes. And the reason is I wouldn't do any homework. I just would not do any homework.
You're too busy beating on your drum and driving the neighbors crazy.
Yeah, I would skip gym class, and they would find me in the practice room in the band room practicing music, because that was my whole focus, and I wouldn't do homework and the other things. Now, here's the reason why I wouldn't do any homework. First of all, at that age, I had started a habit of hitchhiking to Madison on Friday after school and spending the weekend in Madison. I don't know if I started that in 8th grade or as a freshman in high school. And I would room at the Liberty Equality Fraternity, which was a co-ed situation. I'd room with a guy and his girlfriend at the Liberty Equality Fraternity and this was in the hippie days. Totally, absolutely hippie days, war protest days, everything. And all
free
that
love,
was going
that
on.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And I would, I lied about my age everywhere I went. And I told everybody I was 18, and they bought it. So I got a job down at the end of State Street, very end of State Street, at I think it was a Burger Chef, and I know it was a Burger Chef, and I would work the bar rush.
Okay.
I'm like 15 years old. I'm working the bar rush, the counter during the bar rush at this Burger Chef, and every once in a while I flip burgers, and then and I would immerse myself in the hippie culture, and the music and the whole thing, and the Broome Street Theater and all that stuff out there, and made a lot of friends. And then on Sunday, I'd hitchhike back to Moa, Lake Mills, and go back to school and spend the next day just sleeping during class.
I was going to say, sleeping.
So
what did your parents have to say about this? I mean, you've been gone all weekend.
You know, I never really totally figured out whether they were worried about me, whether they were irritated with me, but they were always very supportive. Okay, they supported, they were my best fans. Okay, so back to the school.
Okay.
Okay. This had a direction. In the school, like I said, they'd fail me in classes, and the reason why they'd fail me is because I refused to do homework. Now, I was in the advanced classes in school. I was in the advanced classes, and I would get the top test scores in those advanced classes, which meant that they were the top test scores in the school. So I was getting it. It was, even if I just read drum catalogs, I was still getting it. And my thought about homework was really simple. Listen, the reason why you do homework is to learn what it is that they taught you. If I was already learning it, why waste my life doing homework? It made no sense to me. So I did that, and In the process of doing all this, I became the most suspended student in the history of Lake Mills Public Schools, because I was always finding a reason to have a 3-day vacation. You know, it was like they'd catch me. I smoked cigarettes, and so they'd catch me smoking on school grounds or whopping somebody with a drum thing, or or whatever the case. And one day they told me, well, if you skip gym, because I was always skipping gym, why do I need to go be athletic in gym when I'm playing? I'm a drummer. Are you kidding me? I'm getting my workout. Leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you skip gym one more time, we're gonna have to suspend you. So I did. They did. And my dad said, well, it doesn't look like you want to stay there anyway, because I told him, I says, I don't want to go back. I'm not going back. Well, and my dad said, it's okay. He was good with that, because he realized I wasn't flourishing there anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And they never asked me to come back. In the process, the musical career, the drumming at age 10 turned into professional drumming at age 13. My buddies, we did the rock band thing, did that, and I had my first band I booked for a school dance. So I became a band leader really, really early. And so we were doing all the Monkeys and the CCR and all the whatever.
Yeah.
And back then, and that was kind of lucrative. Okay, kinda. Not, but for a 13-year-old, it was lucrative. And then I got picked up by a polka band leader. And my first gig there was, I think, a New Year's Eve at Cambridge Country Club with a polka band. And I went, wow, this was not bad money. And because I was so young, I don't know, 14, whatever it was, and my mom had to come along as my guardian because I'm in places that serve alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom would come with us everywhere. And I was being trucked all over Wisconsin, Northern Illinois, and stuff like that, doing the polka band gig. And one day when I was in Madison, somebody was putting on a rock festival. Now, this was very shortly after Woodstock.
Okay.
And so we were going to do our own Woodstock here in Wisconsin on a farm outside of Poynette. And they had a lineup of entertainment. I mean, these were major hitters. And I had sold the promoter, the organizer, a contract for my Little Rock Trio. And the thing about it was, I signed a contract for whatever it was for, and in the contract, he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be there as a standby in case something happens when I ask you to fill in.
Okay.
And so I thought, okay, now we've got to go to this rock festival. We don't have any driver's licenses. We don't have, but my buddy's parents, my best friend's parents had a black Chevy van, and so we talked my mom into driving us to the rock festival. Now, here's the way this. My mom was so cool. She was very, very cool, and flexible. Okay, and so she drove us to this rock festival, and we parked the van right next to the stage. Now, if you've seen the pictures of Woodstock, you've seen this. The air was just you didn't even have to have the joint in your hand. You just there was a stream behind the stage where people were bathing with no clothes on and everything else like that. My mom did not leave the van for the weekend. She sat there like in the van. And if she needed to go to the bathroom, she needed an escort to the van, and then she'd go back in the van, close the door, and that's how cool.
A little too much for her, huh?
Yeah. And at that point in time, I would hitchhike around and get done what I needed to get done. One time I hitchhiked down to Bloomington, Illinois, to see B.B. King. And at that age, I had a nice conversation with B.B. King backstage that night.
Wow.
And hitchhiking was rather...
I was going to say, back in them days, a little bit safer than nowadays.
A little safer, but not without consequence. Mm-hmm. I'm on my way, getting ready to hitchhike back from Bloomington, and these two guys in this white van picked me up. And we're going the same way. He says, we're gonna just go over here for a moment. And we pulled up in front of the house, and this was a weird hour of the day. I don't remember what it was, but it was a weird hour of the day. And so we pulled up in front of the house. The two guys got out of the van, went up the driveway, picked up this go-kart, threw it in the back of the van, and we're taking off again. And I figured out what they had just done. They lifted the go-kart, and and I says, that's not, and they started laughing, and he says, that's nothing, this van isn't ours either.
Great.
Oh, me out of here. Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't without consequence, you know?
Gotcha.
So I had left school 2 months into my junior year. And I had another business at that time. Okay, I was doing networking things and stuff like that. And I had a meeting in Menominee Falls, and one of the people on the band I was playing with says, "Man, you ought to stop in now. Right now it's the Ingleside Hotel, I think. It used to be a Ramada Inn.
Okay.
And they used to have a showroom in there, really nice showroom. And they would have a show 6 nights a week there in that showroom with top acts. And he said, man, there's a drummer there. You really ought to see this. And so on my way back from the meeting in Menominee Falls, I stopped in and I went, wow, look at this. And the drummer was really good, and the band was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, because I'm used to guitar bands and stuff like that. This was a horn band. And I said that I was always entrepreneurial. Remember that, because I had a business card with me. At 16, I've got my business card, and I went up to the band leader afterwards. I says to him, I says, I'd like to do what it is that you're doing, because it hit me. They're making money 6 nights a week playing music and traveling. I said, I know you know people, so and I'd like to do what it is that you do. So here's my card. If you ever run into anybody who needs a drummer, and I didn't think a whole lot about it. It was just a natural reflex that I'd done, and I didn't even know who I was talking to. But I got home, and my parents knew who I was talking to. This guy was one of the world's most famous trumpet players and one of the world's most famous band leaders. I had no clue. A few weeks later, about 2.5 months after I'd left school, I get a phone call. It's this guy. He says, kid, can you do this? Oh, yeah, I can do that. Can you do this? Yeah. Can you do that? Yeah. Okay. Okay, you're hired. Meet me in Jackson, Mississippi in 2 weeks.
Now, how old were you at this point?
16.
Okay.
and I might have been 17, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
I was
16,
16.
17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I got all prepared, and I'm off to go to Jackson, Mississippi, to play with famous people. And opening night in Jackson, Mississippi. Now this was a kind of a Dixieland band: trumpet, clarinet, trombone, piano, tuba, drums. Doing big band stuff, standards, and Dixieland stuff. Cross. And like I say, he's famous, so we're now gonna play the best places in the country. Uh, Opening night down there. Now I'm 900 miles from home. Never been out of town like that, and I'm getting ready to play, and we start playing the first number, and out from the side doors, out out from the side doors danced my parents. They had driven across country to see me play the first night.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought so.
So you didn't know, obviously, right?
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
Had no clue. And so I went from there to playing all the best places in the country. And when I say the best place in the country, we would play the month of July in Lake Tahoe at Harvey's
Oh.
at Top of the Wheel. And Bob Hope would sit at the table right next to the stage. And all sorts of famous people would come and see us. And it was really cool. Bob came in several nights, and he must have been there for a golf thing or something like that. He danced to the band. I had an opportunity to talk with him, and in the winter months, we'd be someplace like the Safari in Scottsdale, Arizona, and all the best country clubs, and Plaza Hotel in New York City, and all that kind of stuff. And so I jumped from the polka bands and stuff like that, and leaving school, to a couple months later making more money than my teachers were after all their college degrees and everything.
Right.
And that continued, but that was what opened the door for everything else. Having that name under my belt, and the people who I played with on that band were also became quite famous. One of the guys who rode with me, my car mate, because we would drive our own cars and somebody would ride with us. He's got Grammys and up for Academy Awards and stuff like that for movies. He's very famous across the country and stuff like that. Incidentally, my band leader in school also was one of the world's most famous cornet players. He had left teaching there and to become like the top player on in that genre worldwide. So I'd been placed in the right places with the right people at the right time. And when I moved to Milwaukee, because I played with that guy, everything else just opened up. I immediately got picked up by the top band leader in Wisconsin, who also had the top recording studio in Wisconsin. So I became the staff drummer for the recording studio. His drummer, and he had the mayor of Milwaukee's band, the Milwaukee International Folk Band, which also connected us with playing every day at State Fair and every day at Summerfest and all that stuff. So I had an A band, I had a B band, and I had about 28 other bands that I would be first call sub on. It was very busy.